I'm Suzanne Sabilla. I'm the owner of Sabilla and Associates, which is the premier leadership and employee development company.
Overcome obstacles, reframe your reality, love life, and have growth goals. Change and shift your energy. Pivot.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Suzanne Sabilla, your host of Pivot Now, where we bring on interesting, exciting, and dynamic guests who will share with us their tips, tricks, and life and business hacks to help you pivot in your life. I'm so excited to bring this guest on our show. He's absolutely amazing. You're going to love him. So you got to watch our show, folks. You got to watch it all the way to the end. He's going to drop a lot of gold nuggets, and I know it's going to help each and every one of you. So let me tell you about this individual. He's amazing. So he has a 20 years experience in the marketing industry. So he is an expert in building relationships, starting up conversations, and an expert in the field. He's worked in the field with Fortune 500 companies such as JPMorgan Chase, General Electric, and so many other companies. Welcome to our show, Kirby Monestime. Welcome. There he is.
Hi, everyone.
Let's bring it on. Let's bring on the fire. Let's go. Woo! Love it. Welcome, Kirby.
Thank you.
Welcome.
What an intro. You really make people feel special around here. Thank you.
Yeah, well, we've got to, right? We've got to.
Love it.
You are special. You're a special person.
Thank
You've got
you.
you've got so many great talents. And I know you're going to drop a lot of tips here too. So tell us how because the show is about pivoting. And also you're going to talk about marketing success and financial savvy. So tell us how you pivoted in your life or business.
Yeah, so number one, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me, Suzanne. I appreciate it. So I've been in marketing for over 20 years. And as you mentioned earlier, I've worked for brands like JPMorgan Chase, American Express, GE, so large organizations, and I've also worked for smaller organizations. About 2.5 years ago, my father's wife was diagnosed with early onset dementia. And he took her to the doctor after she had some different behaviors. And, he spoke to the doctor and the doctor, gave his prognosis of the early onset dementia. But then he proceeded to ask my dad, who's 75 at the time, about, care for his wife and how is he going to afford it, and does he have life insurance, and does he have long-term care. And as you can imagine, a 75-year-old man who has lived in this country for quite some time but is not a native or grew up in this country, that was very overwhelming for my dad. So logically, he walked out of that doctor's office, he picked up the phone right away, and he called me and he said, son, the doctor's talking to me about long-term care, and it's talking to me about all of these things that I've never really thought about or been exposed to. What do I do? And so, Suzanne, you talk about pivoting. That was a moment for me where I had to be honest. So one of the keys to pivoting is really being honest about the situation you're in, right? So I had to be honest with myself and my dad and say, Dad, I have no idea. I don't know anything about long-term care. I don't know anything about life insurance, but I love you enough to figure it all out. So let me do some behind the scenes work. Let me talk to a couple of people. You just take Marie home. You make her feel comfortable. You spend time with her, and we will walk through this together, right? So identifying that there is a challenge there for you to conquer is one part of pivoting. And then just taking the steps, even though you don't know the answers, it's how do I take the steps to move things forward? So long story short, I started going to networking groups and I just started talking to people. And I met a wonderful woman in a networking group. Her name was Renee. And we ended up being in a breakout room together, and she happened to be in financial services. And I just said to her, I was like, I'm really struggling with the situation in my family. And, I need to be the person, I need to be the flag carrier for my family, and I need to jump in and support my dad, but I have no knowledge of, life insurance, long-term care, or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked for help, and that's another piece of pivoting, right? Is it's okay to ask for help. And know that by you asking for help, you never know how you're supporting somebody else, what that's going to end up being for your own future. So this woman, Renee, sat with me for hours, and she helped me create a plan for my dad. She asked me a ton of questions. She talked to me about myself and my immediate family. And essentially at the end of the day, after that conversation, I turned to her and I said, hey, I feel like I owe you some money. I feel like I've got to do something here. Because you've been so generous with your time. And she's like, no, this is what my company does. We support people, we provide them with financial education. And, if they purchase a product from us, that's how we get paid. And so as a result of that experience and her enlightenment and the education I received, but the love and passion that I have for people and the love that I have for my dad, I said, hey, you know what? This is an opportunity for me to share information and education with other people. So I got myself licensed, and I am now a licensed financial educator, and I help people understand what their options are, because certainly as Americans and as individuals, we have a ton of options, but sometimes we're not aware of the options that are available to us, or sometimes there are better options, right? So that was my pivot moment. It was like, okay, I'm a marketer. Marketing is what I know. If you want to ask me a question about search engine optimization or social media strategy, I can spurt out an answer to you. But when, there's this need for something that's totally different to me, like financial education, that was my opportunity to pivot. That was my chance to, do something for the greater good of not only myself, but for others, that could potentially change their lives. And I was able to help my family through a challenging process because I took that opportunity to pivot from what I knew and was comfortable with to something that felt a little bit different and maybe a little bit scary, but ultimately now is creating a great financial support structure for me in my life.
Wow, I love that. I love that story too, as to how you actually pivoted and the reasons why, right? Because a lot of times that is the case. It could be we're in a challenging situation, or we may be faced with an obstacle, and it's really learning how to overcome those obstacles or those challenges and face it head on, like you did, which is absolutely amazing, because I've been through that experience as well with my mom. I mean, when she had dementia and Alzheimer's, it was like having to contact the attorney, figuring out insurance issues, having to figure out all of these things in terms of financial assets and what are we going to do. So the skills that you're bringing is tremendous, and you're making a huge impact on people's lives. Tremendous impact.
And Suzanne, one of the things that's interesting about this whole thing is, whatever you believe in, whatever is your higher power, but for me, I believe in God. And I always say God works in mysterious ways, and it's so true. Because for me, just another story, and as a marketer, I always tell brands and people that I work with that part of your success in marketing is your vulnerability. When you can be vulnerable and share pieces of your story, that's really what people connect to. And when somebody says, oh my gosh, I have, a stepmom that had, dementia, when they connect to you in that, from that piece of your story, then they begin to want to know more about you, and they want to maybe support your business. So I encourage people, like I'm about to do, is to just share a little bit of your story. So for me, growing up, I wasn't always fiscally responsible. I spent a lot of time hanging out, partying, drinking, just not thinking about, and listen, there's nothing wrong with having fun, but everything in the right measure, right? So I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about my future when I was younger. And so for a long time, I asked God to help me find something that was going to help me build my retirement, that was going to help me with this scarcity mindset that I had. When we were children growing up in our home, I was about 13 years old. My family experienced a family bankruptcy. We ended up losing our home. We had to move from place to place. And that feeling of comfort that you get from your home that you grew up in was really stolen from me. And, you know, it's very interesting because I don't live in a world where I'm placing blame on anything. I think my parents did the best job they could possibly do in raising their 5 children. My dad worked 2 different jobs, and he tried his hand at entrepreneurship several times because he wanted a better life for his family and his children. So just because that didn't work out, it doesn't mean anything. It just means that my dad was a strong, resilient individual who wanted something better for his family. And so, but what that did cause for me was this scarcity mindset. I mean, there have been times in the past where I would wake up in the middle of the night and check my accounts to make sure money was still there or think that money was being taken from me. And, you know, the reality of the situation was it's that scarcity mindset that was playing tricks on me. And so I had prayed for a very long time. God, help me find something that's going to really help me build my retirement. That's going to bring me passive income. That's going to be flexible, right? Because I have a full-time job and I have a marketing company. So I need to make sure that I can, you know, do the things that I need to do outside of my full-time job and make sure I don't impact that. And so this situation happened to occur, which is not ideal by any means, but it did bring about an opportunity. And so I think part of when we pivot is this understanding and this acknowledgement that sometimes the pivot is not pretty, right? And
yeah, that's so true.
And sometimes you are put in a situation because God, the universe, energy wants to then transform you into something else, into something bigger, and to do something different for you. And sometimes those things are part of the dreams or part of the things that you've asked for in your life. Like I asked for this, you know, ability to make money or to have money for my retirement. And it looked very different than marketing, which I always thought was going to be the key. But it did provide me this opportunity to pivot, grow, learn a new skill set. And now I'm not only able to help my family and myself, but I'm also able to help others.
Wow. Again, another amazing story. Again, I love how you talked about the pivot a lot of times isn't pretty, right? I like that when you said that. The pivot isn't pretty. A lot of times it isn't, right? I mean, I feel like I'm going through a major pivot right now in my life. And it's challenging, right? It's like, it's a challenging time. And I have to see it as like, okay, so what is, as you mentioned, like, what is the opportunity or what is the gift in all of this? And a lot of times we're unable to see the gift or the opportunity when we're in the midst of it. And it could only be a lot of times when we're looking back on it, we can say, oh, okay, that is the reason why I went through all of this, right?
And part of it is just faith, right? So for me, you know, I've been through several situations in my life, as have we all. But, you know, I have the faith in knowing that in all of those situations, somehow I got through them. Somehow I was moved through them. Somehow I've overcome them. And so when we think about how we pivot in our lives, right, even though it may be challenging, right, because a pivot is something different. It's something new. It's you know, I've had one skill set that I utilized for 20 years of my life that has paid for my bills, that I can walk into a boardroom and have a conversation about, you know, how to build a search engine optimization strategy that's going to really amplify your business and have people find you online, right? So it's about, you have this comfortability, but you know, and you have to have the faith that when, you know, your higher power or the universe or whatever it is brings something to your path, it is to show you something, to teach you something, or to have you impact somebody else's life or impact your own life. So having that faith.
Well, I gotta pause on there. I gotta give you the hearts and the fire for that one, Kirby. That is, yes, I love that. I love what you just said.
Yeah, you
That
have
is
to have
put
the
in your
faith.
path for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Put in your path for a reason. You got to believe in, as you said, your higher power, God, the universe has put that in your path for a reason.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Love
So
it.
yeah, so it's been an amazing journey. Some of the skill sets that I utilize in marketing, I very much so utilize in the financial industry, right? So part of number one is the ability to connect with people. A strong marketing strategy is going to have, like I said before, building relationships, telling stories. It's going to be your strategy on how you connect with people. And clearly when I'm, talking about financial education, or I'm talking to people about retirement, or even, life insurance to protect their loved ones, I mean, two very, very sensitive subjects, morbidity and money, right? Those are two sensitive subjects. I think I said morbidity, but I meant mortality. Sorry. Mortality and money, two very sensitive subjects, right? And so you really have to have this, the skill set to be able to understand how do you connect with your audience. So that's one thing. Number two is education, right? There are so many, if you want to be successful, and when I talk to marketing clients, I tell them all the time, let's go down this education journey together, right? Mm-hmm. Education is a big part. We don't know everything. Right? Right. And so it's opening up your mindset and your heart to say, I'm willing to learn new things. I'm willing to learn new approaches, and I'm willing to give it time to manifest. And it's very similar in the financial industry too, right? You can't just put, even if you take, I'm just going to make this up, but if you take $10,000 and you put it in an annuity and you put it there for a year, well, no, you're not. You're going to see some growth, and you're going to see some really good growth, but it's not going to be enough to fund your retirement, right? So good things take time. And as individuals that are growing and changing and potentially going through a pivot season, it's really important to understand and remember that good things take time. And sometimes, as we talked about before, that time is challenging. It comes with its bumps in the roads. It comes with, a learning curve. But essentially, if you believe, if you have faith, and if you stay steadfast in what you're doing, the success is going to come. I know as entrepreneurs, we oftentimes are like, okay, well, this success is taking long. It's been months. Now it's been years. What do? I got to pay these bills. I got to do other things. It's remembering that we need to be resilient and tenacious in order for our dreams to come true.
I love it. I love it. I love it. This is so great.
Yeah.
Dropping the gold nuggets. Love it.
If you hang in there, it'll come to pass.
Yes, definitely. So this part of our show, we call it 3, 2, 1, go. So we want to hear from you 3 tips, 2 strategies, and 1 action item to pivot our lives forward.
Okay. So 3 tips, and some of this might be a repeat, but number 1 tip is stay in the game. Stay in the game. Like, know that there's positivity and there's good things that are going to happen to you when you stay committed and you follow your process. So stay in the game is number 1 tip. Number 2 tip is be patient with yourself and with others and in the process, right? Give yourself some grace. Know that other people have been through similar challenges as you have and have overcome them because they've given themselves some grace, right? And tip number 3 is be true to yourself in the process. Check in with yourself. Ask yourself, how does this feel for me? How am I showing up in the world? Am I truly being authentic? Right? So I think those are 3 strong tips in terms of, how to pivot. What was the second category? Remind me. Sorry about that.
Oh, and then 2 strategies.
2 strategies. Um, so number one strategy is have a plan, have goals. Write down your goals and put them somewhere where you can visualize them and you can see them on an ongoing basis. Some people are visual human beings, so do a vision board, but have something that really articulates what your goals are and what you want your future state to be. And the second one I would say is have a practice, right? So for me, I read my goals every day. I do affirmations. I pray. It may be something different for you. And again, you know, maybe you're not a spiritual or religious human being, that's okay. But maybe it's exercise. Maybe it's walking. Maybe it's, you know, a hobby that you love. Self-care is very, very important in the grand scheme of pivoting. Because if you're not taking care of yourself, it's going to be very difficult or challenging to bring value to other people. So you really want to make sure that you have a plan, you have a process in place, and that you're integrating self-care into that plan and process.
Love it, love it, love it. Again, that gets the fire in the hearts, Kirby. Oh my God, you're just dropping all the gold nuggets here. I mean, self-care is so important, so important. I tell that to my clients all the time, and I truly believe that. I mean, I do that as well, right? Yeah. You got to practice what you preach, and I love what you just said. So give us one action item to pivot our lives forward.
Yeah. So the action item today is, you know, we talked about writing out your goals, but I'm going to even take it a step further. The action item is, are your goals like really smart? Are they specific? Are they measurable? Are they achievable? Are they relatable? Like, are they time specific? I think, you know, it's very easy for us to say, you know, I want to make, you know, $100,000 in year one of my new business. But how are you going to tactically get there if you don't break that into smaller chunks with action items that are associated with it? So, you know, as we talk about developing goals, be really smart about them and break them down into chunks so that you can digest them and so that you can really action against them.
I love it. Yep. Goals, smart goals, always important to have. Excellent, excellent advice, excellent recommendation, and excellent tips. I love it. I love it so much.
Thank you.
You know, you did talk about the scarcity mindset early on. Yeah. And I know I talk a lot to my clients about a scarcity mindset versus an abundant mindset. Can you tell us a little bit more about that as to how to go about getting more of the abundant mindset and going away from the scarcity? Yeah.
You know, the scarcity mindset for me was a very challenging path. What I realized was when my mind was in a place of scarcity, I felt just depressed and sad, and there was a ton of negative emotion that was attached to that scarcity. When I was in moments of feeling abundant, whatever that looked like to me, I recognized that from an emotional standpoint, I was more excited, I was more rejuvenated, there was more of a smile on my face, right? So number one, you know, when I talk to people about scarcity, I always say, honor where you are in the moment. You know, yes, I'm feeling like I don't have enough of something. I'm going to honor that and recognize that that's how I'm feeling. Recognize the emotion, but also acknowledge that you have the power to change that emotion from a negative emotion to a positive emotion. So in that same moment, while I'm saying, you know, I'm feeling like I don't have enough of something, but boy, do I have a lot of friends. Boy, do I have a lot of, you know, food in my refrigerator, clothes in my closet, love surrounding me by people that are in my network, in my family, in my circle, right? So it's almost this one of the tactics that I used is, you know, training my mind that when that negative feeling arose, to counter it with positive feeling. Another thing that I do that's a part of my daily practice is gratitude. And gratitude will completely shift your scarcity mindset. And so every single day, I write down all of the things that I am grateful for. And even if I'm repeating myself in that list, it's certainly okay because those are the things that I've been given that I'm grateful for. So that's okay. But I make sure that I start my day every day with a gratitude journal. And at the end of the night before I go to bed, I write a success journal. So that is telling me, what is one or two things that I did that was really successful that day. And so what I'm doing is I'm balancing the emotions that I have, and I'm charging them in a positive direction by my actions, right? So the gratitude in the morning is the jump start to the day of all of the things that are positive in my life. And then the success journal at night is the kind of shutdown of all of the things that happened that were positive for me during that day. And then I start that cycle all over again.
I love it. Love it, love it, love it. That gets hearts and fire, Kirby. That is amazing. I love that. I have that as a practice as well, the gratitude journal, and then also focusing on, what were the successes of the day. And it really does help when you write it down, because a lot of times if we're thinking about it, but when we write it down, it crystallizes it for ourselves.
Absolutely.
And it does shift the perspective. It shifts our whole thoughts, our whole way of being. So I love that you talked about that.
And so another thing that was very helpful for me, and this, I know this may sound a little weird to some people, but recognizing all that's around me in nature, right? So what I've started to do is like take walks outside, or even if I'm driving, I will notice a beautiful tree or a beautiful plant, and I will stop to recognize that, right? Because I think what happens to us all too often is because our minds are such a powerful engine, right? We create these picture frames in our head, and a lot of times these picture frames or these little images that we create in our head, those images can have a negative connotation if we don't manage and control them. And so for me, the speaking through the gratitude and the writing down and the journaling, that's very helpful. But then also if I'm focused on all of the beauty that's around me in nature, the budding trees, the sunrise, the birds that are singing and that you can see them, if I can focus on those things, it starts to create more of a peaceful mindset, which also equates to a lot of abundance, right? Because the abundance expands outside of what's just sitting here, and it expands to everything that's around us. So really being into nature has helped me in terms of increasing my overall abundance mindset.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Kirby, let's go. Let's go. You're bringing on the fire. I'm telling you, you got the fire going on here. So cool. So cool. This is great. I love it. I love all that you're talking about and that what you're doing and talking about nature and being aware of your environment and what's around you, because it's so true, right? We can just get in the car and just drive to wherever we're going, dropping off the kids at school or going to an appointment and not even be cognizant or be aware of our beautiful surroundings, right? Yeah. So I love that you talked about that. That's so cool. So where can we find you and how can we connect with you?
Yeah. So thank you again for this opportunity. So you can find me on LinkedIn. My personal page is Kirby Monestime. I also have tagged myself recently as the success sponsor. So every week I post videos on how to achieve success in your life, just from my own personal perspective. So if you could follow me on LinkedIn, that would be awesome. Like my posts and comment on them. You can also email me at contentredefinedllc@gmail.com. And you can find me at Content Redefined LLC on Instagram and Facebook as well.
Sounds great. And we're going to have all of your social media contacts after the show as well, so you can link and connect to Kirby. Thanks again, Kirby. We really appreciated you being on the show, and you've been a fabulous guest. You've dropped so many gold nuggets. Just fabulous. Thanks again. We really appreciate it.
Suzanne. I honor you and the work that you're doing and all that you're doing to change the world. So thank you for being who you are as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for being on our show, watching our show. We're here every Tuesday, 10 o'clock Pacific time, 1 o'clock Eastern time on E360 TV, your Roku channel, Android devices, Facebook Live. We're on all social media. So join us every Tuesday and live life abundantly. Pivot now.
Change and shift your energy. Change and shift your energy. Pivot